My name really is Jacinta Weeks, but everybody calls me Rose. I grew up in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm one of six. I have a twin sister. I also have a older twin brother and a sister also. All of my family, all the girls, five girls and one boy, we're all teachers back home. Um, I came here in 1981. I didn't want to be a teacher because I heard so many bad things about teaching in the Canadian schools. So I never intended to be being a teacher. But it so happens I couldn't get a job when I came here. So I ended up at a daycare and I've been there for over 40 years.
Hi, I'm Zariah. I'm from Grenada and I'm currently a university student at Concordia University. I grew up in Grenada and I came to Montreal in 2022. After I graduated with my associate's degree in tourism, I wanted to further get my bachelor's. So I started off in econ, but now I'm studying political science at Concordia.
Hi, my name is Kaya Banks. I'm a CBT group class instructor, a PAB, coordinated senior programs and different residences and associations. Born and raised here in Montreal, Quebec. I'm, I have two brothers, two sisters, uh, and I've found a lot of passion working with the aging community and seeing them grow even within their age and expand their minds, expand their mobility in so many different ways. And I hope to continue furthering that.
Okay, growing up in St. Vincent, I came here when I was 28. So growing up in St. Vincent, I just had a single mom. My father was around, but he was not in the home. And I always, even today, my sister and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about we were glad that we didn't have a father in the home because we remembered so much abuse happened to our friends with their fathers being in the home. So we all said we were happy that we didn't have a dad in the home. Um, Today, well, I'm married. I have a husband who's been married for over 40 something years. I have two sons and also have a granddaughter and a grandson. And it's been quite different because even my son, his wife, she works out of town most of the time. So since the kids were babies, I so admire him because he's nothing like how I pictured a father to be. Even if when the mother's here, they would more often than not call their daddy if they wanted something than their mom. So it's quite different because going back home in St. Vincent when we were growing up, there were hardly any fathers in the homes. It was mostly single parents, single women, not really men.
So for me, I am the fourth of six children. I grew up primarily with my mom, but my dad was around. They got divorced when I was younger, and he was like a police officer, so he would like some weekends he's in the station, some weekends he's off. Whenever he had like the weekends off, I would like go and spend time with him because he lives like in a different area from my mom. But most times I spend to my mom. Currently, right now, living in Montreal, I live here with my dad only. My entire siblings, my mom, everyone is like I can bring.
So I grew up with a two-parent household up until I was 11. My parents separated from there. I have two sisters on my mom's side and two brothers on my dad's. My sisters are older than me. Um, so I'm the only child within my parents. So growing up with both of them was amazing, really, because I got a chance to see what it felt like to have both parents, number one, work, both parents equally share responsibilities within the household. Although there were often gender roles still, there was both of them contributing. When they split when I was 11, I stayed with my mom. My dad was always around, and and still is. But I got to understand a family dynamic that didn't actually take away from what I was going to be, who I was, just because they couldn't make things work. However, it showed me that I wanted to have something that lasted.
Um, for me personally, growing up without a father, I don't feel I missed anything. I feel I got the best of everything because I was one of the youngest of my older sisters, and they took care of us. So he was there. My father, they provided a little bit of financial benefit sometimes, but I don't think I missed anything by not having a father in the home. As I said before, even last week, my twin sister and I were talking about that, and we were talking about a friend of ours who lived not too far from us, and even today, you can see all the wounds on the back of her legs that she got from her dad. So we always said we are happy that my sister even said my father never hit me. So we were happy that I was happy. I'm not sad that I don't think I missed anything to be. I mean, growing up in Canada now, I think it's different. You need that two parent, you need that support. But back home, we had the neighbors, we had friends. Everybody pitched in. It was more of a community, a village.
For me personally, I enjoyed every time like I spent time with my dad because like when I was with my mom, like we were like four of us in the household, and when I with my dad, it's just like me and my dad. So it was more of like a quiet, fun getaway, I guess, from like my mom and family. With like sometimes we get to go shopping, we get to go around the town, like stuff I didn't get to experience with my mom because she was a single mother, but also she was unemployed, raising like four children. So to me, it was more of like a benefit going by my dad sometimes, and when he left to come to Canada, it didn't really like make me feel bad or feel like I missed out on anything in a way because he did tell me like, like I would like for you to, like come to live with me and experience better opportunities so you can further yourself in like career wise or further yourself in life. And eventually that did happen for me. I do miss my mom. I miss my siblings a lot. Right now it is me and my dad, just like it was before, but more on like a permanent level. I do miss my siblings and my mom a lot, but I feel like I still get that balance because like during the holidays I go back home. So even though like I'm not living with my mom and my siblings anymore, I still get to see them. We still communicate every time. And I am doing my best in terms of furthering myself career wise, but also trying to be there for my family. Um I did relate to what Rose said in terms of like community. Like back home when you get sick, like if you don't have a car or something, you can always like go to the neighbor, like, hey, can you like drop me to the medical station or to like the doctor or something? Because like ambulances are like really expensive. But up here, it's more of like you need to fend for yourself.
Agree.
So that was a big adjustment for me coming here, finding that level of like independence. Even though like I had my dad, he doesn't speak French. So he was like at a disadvantage, only knowing like limited people. So it was also like me trying to like okay, find people as well to like assist in like any way. So I do miss the community back home. And especially like being here, yeah, like preferably would be, better or feel more comfortable to like explain to a black person, hey, this is what's happening to me, rather than someone that you don't know who is white and you don't know like what their opinion is of you. Do they fuck with black people or not?
Who was the disciplinarian back when you were growing up? Your mom or your dad?
I feel like both. They were both really strict in their own ways.
I think you should really get to know this person very well. Sometimes you get into a relationship and it's hunky dory, everything looks well, and so, oh, I love you, I this and that. But when you really get to know somebody, then you find that this is all that is set out to be. So I think you have to really, really get to know this person really, really well. Don't rush into anything. I know it's especially when the relationship is new, we always want to go and do certain things, but get to know them well, know their values if they're like yours. The deal breakers, I always say violence. If some people if you don't do as they want you to do, they want to hit you or they want to restrict your movements and all this kind of stuff. So I think that's one really big if somebody wants to make you different than who you are,
Mhm.
that's I think that's a really deal breaker for me.
It's always so much compromise.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can put certain things you can't compromise on at all because sometimes they say, "Oh, they do it," and "Oh, I'm sorry, I will never do it again," and the next time it's even worse.
A key thing is values, right? First of all, you have to understand what your values are. Um, I think people always come in and try and tell you what to do or how to do it, but once you have a good foundation on what your values are, choosing a person becomes easier. Matching those values up, sometimes they're not always going to be the same, but as long as they're respected, it's really important. I think they're I think as women and women who have probably grown up with single moms or ended up with our moms at one point or another, I have this strong sense of independence. And I think interdependence within a relationship is extremely important. Um, you're not there by yourself, right? At the same time, education is very important. However, you choose to go about it. This day and age, there's so many avenues for that. But I think choosing all the right person is also choosing somebody who's in support of those things for you. And if they feel like that's not the route you should take or whatnot, that they're supportive of you learning the different routes to take. You know what I mean? Um, there's always a talk about money and how money separates people, and especially today where women are making more money, I think it's important that we still understand and respect each other, and that even if somebody's making more money than the other, that they're still valuable, and that shouldn't change their value. That's one thing I think we focus way too much on. um, I think in supporting each other and making sure that do what works best for you guys. I think here we've seen Rose's son, your dad, step up in ways that we may not hear black men step up as fathers. And I think it's important to see that men can do it too.
Relationships go through different phases. My husband was living here. I was back home. Um, we were sort of friends before he came here. We corresponded. That time we didn't even have phones. We mostly wrote letters. Um, um, and so he came and we got married, and then I joined him here. I remember when I got here, I wanted to go back home. It was so. I also remember the first time I felt different. I remember I went to the bus stop, was waiting on the bus, and people were coming and going. And people came and nobody said good morning. And really, I couldn't, because back home, whether you know somebody or not, we pass them, you would say hello or whatever. So then I realized that it was like a real culture shock to me. Um, it was a big adjustment too when I came here because back home I never liked the kitchen. When I was back home. So I couldn't cook. When I came here, I had to learn to cook. That was another adjustment. So different. But he was patient. He could cook because he was here. He was on his own, so he could do that. So that was another adjustment period for me then. I couldn't find a job for 6 months because when you come here, they're asking you for experience. If you don't have a job, how can you get job experience? So that was another thing, but it wasn't a problem for him. Anyway, I finally got a job, and then everything was okay. But relationships change. As you said, in the early stages, it's all lovey, 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 and then but when you live with somebody, then you really get to know them. It might not be. But I thought he was different. I thought it might not be this. I thought he was look at things different. It might be some jealousy and all this kind of stuff. So all these things you have, but to you just have to be patient. You can't get mad or lash out for every little thing. You have to we're all humans. We all make mistakes. We all grow. So things will happen, but you just have to know if you want this relationship to work, you have to forgive, not forget maybe, but you have to forgive certain things. And things would work out if you're willing to work on a relationship. Community. I always said my kids sometimes I said, boy, if you were living in my days, you would have been dead a long time ago. I tell my kids that all the time. Because the things these kids get away with now, I'm telling you, they talk to their parents and everything and anything anywhere they want, and even up to today now it bothers me because I think people should have respect for the elders, but community, even I noticed too, I don't think it's only black people, I've noticed that we just can't seem to get along. We any little thing happens, it's done.
Burning
We
each other
don't,
off, burning
yeah,
bridges. Yeah.
we don't have a building or something because you might get together, you want to do something, but somebody says that and then there's squash. There's nothing. If you look, there's no black owned business really in there are some, but I mean like a building or places you can go.
There's
There's
just us.
nothing. There's
For us,
nothing.
by us.
Yeah. And that's I don't know. It's the young people. I don't know. Well, we grew up differently. I think sometimes I say they grew up to everything was done for them. They're pushed on a plate. I said to myself all the time, the kids who call the shots now. It's not the adults, it's the kids. If they want to go and eat here, there's the kids. You know, why is it so right that kids call the shots? Why?
My personal opinion as to why I feel like elder people let us.
I don't think it's us. I think the seniors think we did pretty well because I remember with my mother, sometimes you didn't have to hit. They just give you that look and you knew exactly what you could do and what you couldn't do. So it wasn't always being corporally punished and hit and all this kind of stuff. Even sometimes you didn't have to do that. You know what was expected? You did something wrong and they just and you pull yourself up right then. So I don't think it's because we want to soften our kids. And maybe our kids were softer and
On their
the like generation, so yeah, maybe that. But I don't blame the seniors for and the majority. I know there's always a difference and there may always be an exception, but for me, I think we did pretty well.
Do you feel like there's
Yes.
a lack of respect though?
You mean for the young people?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. As I said before, when we were growing up, you had to be respectful. If you did something wrong, before you got home, your parents knew about it, and then you're going to get you're going to pay for that. But now, I mean, I remember when you're teaching and the stuff. I remember I was so in fear of my teachers. And I remember when I got in the school system, the kids would be cursing the dirty words there, and you're there, and they couldn't care less. So as you said, maybe the corporal punishment did something, and maybe it's lack of that. We need some of that.
When I say they let us, I mean in terms of
Misbehave.
not necessarily like I feel like we might have different definitions as to misbehave. I like one thing that you said. In terms of like as an elder, you expect respect and stuff like that, and I totally understand. Especially like growing up, I know like when I'm young, like moment time, like I enter the bus or enter like a store or something, I have to say good morning and stuff. But I feel like as I've gotten older and stuff like that, I would like a bit of respect as well.
I agree with
In terms of, I feel like it needs to be reciprocated
yes.
to some
Agree.
extent. I'm not saying there are some things I totally have to do. Like I'm not saying we're on the same level. I'm just saying like in order for me to prosper in life and like get somewhere, it also needs to be like reciprocated to some extent. And that's what I think like a few of the elder persons, especially super traditional persons, don't understand in terms of okay, you are young. Back in my day, that didn't used to happen. You need to listen to me, but respectfully, this is not your day. This is the 21st century, and in my day, I would like for you to meet me halfway because I'm no longer a kid, or I'm not a kid that was back in your day.
if you have good education, there's a lot of stuff you might be able to fall back on. So continue that. The one who is already now ready to embark on life, as I said before, don't rush into things. All of us rush into things because we want to be with somebody or we don't want to be alone. But being alone is not really a bad thing. So make sure that you know this person well, that you take time to look at every situation. Don't rush. There might be somebody else might be there. If this one doesn't work out, might be because a lot of us, the first relationship is not sometimes the best relationship. So
Yeah.
wait and don't rush into anything, and then take your time. You don't have to have a partner. Sometimes God didn't make everybody to have a partner. They have no respect for themselves.
Period.
Because, I see them in the street and the way they behave or on the bus and all these things, I think. And if you don't respect yourself, you can't expect other people to respect you. A lot of them, I think, don't have much ambition. They're just the status quo. Whatever they have, and they're satisfied. And maybe they might be making a little bit of money, but they don't try to like enrich themselves and try to do better.
Yeah.
Those are two things I think young people could do, especially our black people can. They like to dress up, and especially like in carnival, you see them. Everything is everything is out there hanging.
Whenever like I'm walking on the street or I'm on the bus and I see someone wearing some skin fish clothing, the first thing that comes to my mind is that's very ghetto. For me, I my mom, as well as like the women around me, as well as the men as well, instilled in me to be like a woman of like value, not just in terms of like my education, my mindset, but also in terms of the way that I dress and the way that I portray myself when I am around other people.
Look at all the Kanye West and all these other guys. A lot of us do that to ourselves. Growing up, back in I still listen to those kind of music growing up. It still brings something to me than these, as you said, with these kind of words. And I don't listen to that kind of music because it's not something I like or something I would listen to. So um, I think most of it is we bring things on ourselves. It's not people putting it on us. It's we doing it to ourselves.